Wildcard weekend has ended, and with it, many teams and fan bases' hopes and dreams of a Super Bowl. Today, we're going to be talking about the Bills-Steelers game and the Buccaneers-Eagles game. First and foremost, Mitch, the most important game, the game I am most excited to talk about. We'll start with the Eagles game. I am so disappointed in everyone in that building. Embarrassing performance offensively, embarrassing performance defensively. I'm not going to say heads need to roll, but there needs to be some serious conversations in there. Jalen Hurts played poorly. The Eagles receiver besides Devontae Smith didn't look good. The running game wasn't there. They couldn't open up lanes on the ground. Hall of Fame center Jason Kelce is retiring, taking with him the heart and soul of that Eagles offensive line. Lane Johnson might be gone. And without those guys, who knows how that Eagles offensive line is going to look in years to come. We have not seen an Eagles offensive line without those two stars for 11 years. Strange things on the horizon in Philadelphia. Now, ultimately, people are going to talk about firing Sirianni. I don't think that's going to happen. I think making the playoffs, all 3 years of your coaching tenure, going to the Super Bowl, you're not losing your job over that. This season was a letdown, but there is such a thing as a Super Bowl hangover. The Chiefs are experiencing it. The Eagles experienced it a little bit worse. And ultimately, the final thing I'm going to say, Jalen Hurts is going to get blasted by the media. They're going to talk about him setting up his tripod at Target all offseason. I would be shocked if something does not come out in the coming days or weeks that Jalen Hurts was playing through some ankle, knee, shoulder, hip, some type of injury. He did not look like the same quarterback down the stretch as he did for most of the year. Who's this loss on? It's on everybody. But bad look for the Eagles top to bottom.
Well, Jalen Hurts, we know he was playing with the finger injury. We know he's had a knee brace on the majority of the year. So that's been something the entirety of the year. I don't think he looked all that different than what we've seen this season. The thing that has looked different is the entire offense. The collapse was much slower than the Cowboys, but back when they were 10-1, I was still saying the same things about them. I was cautiously pessimistic about what they looked like, and I didn't go full in on them because they did have 10 wins and only 1 loss. But if you remember, even when they beat all those good teams during the season, their offense was kind of getting by based on their elite talent. They didn't look quite as dynamic and unstoppable as they looked last year with their schematics. And on the defensive side of the ball, there isn't one game you can really point to this season where their defense was dominant. So it happened over a few weeks. They lost week after week after week, and then it eventually continued into the playoffs. And when it comes to Nick Sirianni specifically, you made the argument that, he's not going to get fired because he's been to the playoffs all 3 seasons in a row. Well, if there ever was an argument to be made for a coach to be fired after 3 playoff appearances and going to the Super Bowl, it would be this season because of the fact you lost your offensive coordinator to the Colts, who now look better than we expected this season. You lost your defensive coordinator to the Cardinals, who then beat you and also looked better than we expected the Cardinals to look this season.
Oh, yeah, hold on. We expect the Cardinals to have a top 5 pick. They have a top 5 pick. The Cardinals are right where we thought they were going to be.
Well, they're bad, but they had some games where they were much more competitive than we thought they would be, and they won some games we did not expect them to win. They beat the Cowboys, and they beat the Eagles, so I think that is saying something.
Power of Josh Dobbs, man. Josh Dobbs will get you wins over good teams.
Josh Dobbs did not beat the Eagles.
Beat the Cowboys, though, and you're just saying the Eagles aren't a good team, so.
When it comes to Nick Sirianni, and both your coordinators leave and put their organizations in better places than when they got there, and you're on the Eagles, and your offense has receivers running into each other, your entire defense can't even tackle unless you're one of the interior defensive linemen. The corners missed about a bajillion tackles, and Bucs receivers were just streaking down the field. So it would not shock me if they let go of Nick Sirianni this year in favor of more of a schematic-minded offensive head coach who can take advantage of all the offensive weapons they do have on that side of the ball, because it is going to be difficult to lose Jason Kelce. You mentioned Lane Johnson, and someone's also going to need to rebuild that defense, because we know Matt Patricia, there's no way he's still the defensive coordinator after that.
Hey man, he's a high caliber, fancy cultural guy. Here's the problem with that. Yes, the Eagles have offensive pieces which would be attractive to a new head coach. What type of promising coaching prospect sees, okay, I could go be the coach in Philadelphia after they fired a guy who made the playoffs 3 straight years? What type of guy says, yeah, I'll go take that job instead of maybe the Chargers job or somewhere like that? If they fire Sirianni, they are not an attractive landing spot for a young coach, particularly since they are going to be losing so many elder statesmen in that locker room. They're losing pieces on the offensive and defensive line who have been there for over a decade. they're going to have to rebuild. And if you have been demonstrated, or if it has been demonstrated by the front office, you do not have a long leash, I don't think they're going to be able to attract a good head coaching candidate, which is why they're going to keep Sirianni. I cannot see them getting rid of Sirianni. We've been talking about the Eagles an awful lot. Now I want to mosey on over to the Buccaneers. Who thought they would be here at the start of the season? Everyone said this is a top 5 picking team. This is a team who was going to be in that Caleb Williams sweepstakes. Who was going to maybe get Drake May. And now look, Baker Mayfield, franchise quarterback, has that entire offense looking better than it did when Tom Brady was there. That defense, I thought the defense was going to stink going into the year. I thought that was going to be the thing which really fell apart on them over the offseason. I thought Vita Vea wasn't that good. I thought their pass rush wasn't that good. I thought their secondary was going to be among the worst in the league. I was so wrong on all those fronts. They're great. They have Pro Bowlers. They have all-pro level players, even if they were not acknowledged by the voters on that defense, who are carrying them to wins. It takes a Herculean effort to stop the tush push at the 1 yard line to prevent the 2-point conversion. This Buccaneers unit did that. This Buccaneers unit has been making people look silly all year. From week 1 until right now, they have been phenomenal. And as someone who supports the Lions, I'm a little bit worried about this coming matchup, because that Buccaneers defense is going to be hard to get through, particularly that stout defensive line. Lions' offensive line is probably going to be able to match up with them well, but still, that defense is not getting talked about. Now, I'd put them in the same category as defenses like the Browns, like the Ravens this year. They are up there.
I wouldn't call their defense quite that good, but when it comes to the Buccaneers winning this game, there is a major storyline kind of unrelated to the Buccaneers that needs to be talked about more. This weekend, the Browns had a fun end to the year, but this weekend put the nail in Browns fans' coffin, and it showed just how sorry the Browns organization is, because you traded for Deshaun Watson from the Texans organization, CJ Stroud then beats the piss out of you, and then you have to watch Baker Mayfield, who bumped around last year between the Panthers and the Rams, go win a playoff game for the Buccaneers, tying how many games he won with the Browns for your organization in the playoffs. So I don't think that's talked about quite enough. The Browns are a sorry organization, and Baker Mayfield, he is I'm not going to say he's a high-end starter in the NFL, but he's a quality starter. If he has the pieces around him, like with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, he has a running back who can be productive in Rachaad White, and then he has a defense, he will win you football games. Now, when it comes to next week, I would definitely still would pick the Lions to win that one, although I do think there's the unique opportunity for a shootout just because of that line secondary. Not quite as bad as the Eagles, but it is something the Buccaneers might be able to take advantage of.
I mean, at the end of the day, with that matchup, we'll talk about it later on. The question is, do you think the Buccaneers' passing attack is much better than the Rams? And I really am inclined to say no, not really. Particularly if they let the Lions play physical again. Unique way of putting it, I know. They'll probably win the game. It also helps, and I'm going to comment on this, and I think we're going to move on. I was not a fan of the decision to move Tristan Wirfs, who had been one of, if not the best right tackle in football. Take him and move him to be a blindside tackle. I didn't like that decision. I thought that was risking his career. I thought that was going to hurt the Buccaneers. I thought it was a move which said, hey, we give up on the season, but we're going to put a player in a position where he might develop into a more valuable player. That has worked out. Tristan Wirfs has looked great down the stretch in Tampa Bay. They now have a top 5 left tackle, a franchise left tackle, and I got a lot of respect to that coaching staff and that front office for making that decision. Anyway, speaking of franchises, Josh Allen is him. I will say it until the end of time. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and once again, he did a carry job. Most passing yards on his team, most rushing yards on his team, in large part due to a massive singular carry. But still, this victory over the Steelers... May or may not
have included a fake slide.
Oh, please. You used to compare Kenny Pickett's fake slide in college to that. Josh Allen's too big to change directions quickly. You think that's a fake slide? That's Josh Allen trying not to break his backside on that cold, hard turf up in Buffalo. The Bills are pretty legit, though. I've been saying it all year, particularly since Week 12. They still have a shot of going to the Super Bowl. And this game confirmed it for me. Slowed down a little bit in the second half. That Steelers defense woke up some, made it a more competitive game than it may have appeared, but you cannot pick against the Buffalo Bills. Look great. Josh Allen did Josh Allen things. James Cook, very productive. Kincaid, Knox, productive. Stephon Diggs has seen limited action down the stretch, still productive. That offensive line, Osiris Torrance, great rookie guard, changing things up in there. The Bills' offense, fantastic. Can't say much about their defense because they were playing Mason Rudolph, but...
Well, we are going to see some incredible ref ball next week with the Chiefs and Bills because that soft call on Josh Allen, that late hit, some of the calls he gets, some of the calls Patrick Mahomes gets, we're going to see a lot of yellow flags flying next week when we have to watch that game. And then, like you said on Twitter, if Tony Romo's the one calling that game, we may all have to watch it on mute.
It's X, Tristan. Go follow us, by the way, Thicc Man 2Cs. Anyway.
The game wasn't a shock to anyone. Everyone expected the Steelers to lose this game. No one expected them to be able to pull this out with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. So the little victory lapping you're doing with Josh Allen having such a great game against the Steelers team that was the 7th seed and in years past wouldn't even be in the playoffs and maybe didn't even deserve to be in the playoffs, I think, it's a little bit much if you ask me.
Hater! Oh, excuse me, something got caught in my throat there.
But it was a good performance from Josh Allen. Good for him. Helped one of my best ball teams in Underdog move on, so...
So that's all you care about, your gambling addiction? Shame on you, Tristan. It's a good thing that's not legal in North Carolina until March. Otherwise, we would be in deep debt on Thicc Man Inc. We would have tax collectors knocking on our windows, trying to break into the studio and steal our lights. Anyway, those were our thoughts on the Monday wildcard games. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. If you're still here, like, share, subscribe, and watch out for our division round predictions coming in the next few days.